Hi, my name is Brian King, and I'm the head of school at Milwaukee Jewish Day School, and this is my Moment of Torah. This week's portion is Mishpatim, which is somewhat appropriate for me as a recovering lawyer. I get to talk to you and share some of my thoughts about a Torah portion that is filled almost exclusively with laws. And to set the stage, last week's portion, Yitro, was the famous portion where Moses gets the Ten Commandments. And so this new fledgling nation of Israelites is born, and they need leadership and they need laws. And this portion lays down the laws of that new society, the Israelite new society. And my personal opinion is these aren't necessarily the same set of laws that we would want to live by today. When you read this Torah portion and you look at some of the laws literally, I'm not sure I want some of them in my world today, but I also believe that it made a lot of sense back then, at that time, in the circumstances when you've got this new group of people who've just been freed from slavery and they needed guidance. The commentators definitely pay attention to the fact that this portion begins with laws about what's translated in many texts as slavery, but it really isn't slavery, certainly not slavery in the way that we think of slavery. It's really indentured servitude. That's what the Torah is talking about here. And it lays out rules for indentured servitude. And you can serve no more than 7 years. In fact, after the 6th year, you have to be set free and paid. There are rules that if a master mistreats the slave or the worker, and specifically it says, the Torah says that if you harm the eye of the worker, then you have to set that worker free. And when you look at the laws about slavery or servitude in Mishpatim, and you look at the other laws in there that have to do with kashrut and any number of other things, one of the things that I see is a prescription for a ethical society that cares deeply about the dignity of individual human beings. Even those who are servants have to be treated in a particular way and have to be released after a certain amount of time. And this is obviously a society from thousands of years ago. Well, interestingly, as happens sometimes, this portion comes at almost the exact same time as our Martin Luther King celebration and commemoration here in our country. And if you roll our clock back just 150 years, not thousands of years, but just 150 years, much of our country lived in a condition that would have been completely unacceptable back in that early Israelite society. The way that servitude back then was a system of slavery as we've learned it in school, and that slavery was perpetual. And there were little in the ways of protections for slaves, and in fact, the dignity of the individual, of the human being, was definitely not something that was on most Southern slaveholders' minds back then. And it's important for us to think hard about the lessons that the Torah can teach us from thousands of years ago, and remind us that today, in our world, while we are progressing and while we're certainly in a lot better place than we might have been 150 years ago, we still have work to do to bring about a society that truly upholds the dignity of every individual human being. And so in the spirit of Martin Luther King, in the spirit of Parshat Mishpatim, that is my hope for everybody moving forward and for our society moving forward, that we can continue our work to elevate the dignity of each human being. Shabbat Shalom.